Hi, welcome to the garden. I thought I'd take you on a tour. It's the morning of May 17th. Why don't you join me as we walk around the garden? I thought we could start the tour in the front of the house. So this is the new island border that we installed last year. And everything is starting to grow, which is great. It looks like everything made it through the winter time. I did have some trouble with the deer eating the Japanese maple, but I'm putting some repellent or some deterrent on that now, so hopefully that will be okay. We've got some of the silver sage poking up and some forget-me-nots. We've got the boxwood, and the chartreuse colored 9 bark is coming into its own now. That'll fill up this whole area. And then we've got some chartreuse colored barberries. And the thing that's just the most spectacular here is this pink flowering dogwood. So it just looks lovely. This is one of my favorite trees. This tree was here when we bought the house. It was much smaller, of course, but I'm just so happy that it's still doing well. And with that, we will walk along into the side yard and see what's going on in the backyard. Okay, so this is the gate. Excuse my shadow here. And of course, I still have my holiday wreath up. I probably should remove that this weekend. And this takes us into the woodland garden. The woodland garden now, still have some anemones that are blooming, but for the most part, those are starting to fade back. Along with the hellebores, their blooms are fading a bit. And now we've got the variegated Solomon seal, got the sweet woodruff is blooming, and that just smells wonderful. I've also got some phlox that are blooming. Those are white. Those are really pretty, I think. I really like those. I want to try to add some more of those to the garden. So the one thing here is the lace leaf Japanese maple. The reason why it has very few leaves is because the groundhog ate them off, which is a real shame. But I'm happy to say that it looks like they're going to be growing back, I hope. Otherwise, we might be in some trouble with this Japanese maple here. So that was a little bit of a tragedy at the beginning of spring here. And the sun is rising. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. The ajuga that I planted last season is filling out nicely. Again, warning, warning, warning. Super invasive plant, but if you're able to contain it, it is great in the shade. The hornbeam trees have amazingly filled out, and that brings us around to the shade border, my Mary border. So the Brunera that surrounds the Mary statue did get mosaic disease last season. I did remove some of the plants. I haven't removed all of them. It was hard for me to judge which ones to remove, so I'm hoping that they do okay this season, but we'll see. They're just starting to get their blue flowers. They're such a pretty plant, great, great shade plant. And then you can see in the background there, I've got the white bleeding heart. And if we move around this way, the other thing that's new in the garden is the viburnum. The snowball viburnum is starting to bloom. I think I'm actually going to move this plant into one of the spaces where I had a not a hosta, but a hydrangea. I've got some mophead hydrangeas in this garden that need to be removed. They're just not cold hardy enough. And we got a hard frost early in the season, and it ruined all of the flower buds. So those hydrangeas aren't going to bloom at all this season, and they're taking up a lot of space in the garden. And you know what? The garden's just not that big, so I need to move those and give those to somebody else and find a better plant. Okay, so as we move along the Mary border here, you can see some of the hostas are starting to grow. And again, here is the hydrangeas that I told you about. They're basically just little sticks sticking up with a few leaves. The alliums are starting to bud, and I'll just turn around and give you a different view of the border. One of the plants that I am trying to cultivate more in the garden, especially the shade border, are columbines. So I've got Ooh, excuse me, I almost fell over. So I've got some great columbine plants here that are just starting to bud. You can see that the buds are just starting to form. I'm always excited to see what colors they're going to be because you don't really know. I mean, they cross-pollinate quite a bit, and that's kind of the fun of it. All right, and we can just walk along the back here. Again, you can see I've got the forest pansy red buds are blooming, which is, I love those trees so much. And we've got the climbing hydrangeas are starting to grow even taller on the arbor. I've got the tricolored willows are starting to turn white, which is great. Everything is filling out. We've got the Annabelle hydrangeas filling out and oriental lilies. We've got peony, spirea, hostas, the boxwood. The Japanese maples are, all their leaves are coming out. They did well. They did really well this winter. I'm so happy to see them. And the fountain is uncovered. So this season I figured out that I needed to just keep everything inside. So I dried everything out, cleaned everything out, and I left the pump inside of this area and just tarped everything up, and it worked out great. It only took me about 10 minutes to get this fountain up and running for this season, which is like normally what I do is I take the fountain, the pump out and put it in the garage, and then it's really hard to like wire it back because it's, you know, the wire goes through the center and out the bottom, and it takes so much time to do that. And I decided I was just going to leave the pump inside there because the garage is just as cold as out here as long as it didn't get wet, and it worked perfectly. So I'm going to be doing that from now on. And if we just go along the back here, you can see the hostas are poking up, and my very disappointing performance on my white lilac. I did get some blooms. This is the first time it's bloomed. It just doesn't get enough sun. But oh my gosh, these smell wonderful. They're such pretty flowers. I don't think I have it planted in the right place. There's another bloodgood Japanese maple in the corner there. I've got a bunch of cranesbill that are poking their heads up. And like I said, the red buds are starting to bloom. And again, the forest pansy red buds, they've been blooming, and now you can start to see that they're getting their purple leaves. They're such pretty, pretty trees. The cardinals, they're singing their little heads off today. It's a great day in the garden. And I'm really looking forward to this weekend to getting back out here and doing some gardening. I've got lots and lots and lots of work to do. I just love every minute of it too. Thought I'd take you and show you again this side of the border and the dreaded allium foliage. Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a big job. I'll be glad to. I love the purple flowers, but it's just this foliage is just got to go. And I am happy to report I have started taking out these bad looking arborvitae, so I need to figure out what I'm going to do in the back of that border. Well, thanks so much for joining me on a tour of my garden on May 17th. It's been fun to kind of keep track of how everything changes just week from week to week. And once the weather starts getting warm, as you know, everything starts growing, and we are definitely now in garden season. Well, that's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one.